Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, AI and Automation in Action. My name is John Lyons. I'm ProStrategy's Practice Director for Analytics and Enterprise Performance Management, and I'm joined today by Craig Eskdale, who's my colleague. He's our Client Director for Analytics, and it's actually Craig's team who delivers analytics and AI solutions on behalf of ProStrategy. So for today, our agenda is how AI, automation and analytics can improve operations, how to approach AI adoption in a strategic business-led way, and importantly, what to do and what to avoid when starting your AI journey. So I'm going to cover those topics, and then in the second half, Craig will take us through some real-world examples of AI in action. These would be solutions that we have implemented for customers already. And then at the end, we'll open it up for live Q&A. Just to say, we have, I suppose, quite a lot of slides. Some of them are quite detailed. We don't intend going through every single slide in detail. We will forward the slides to everybody, so you'll be able to see the slide content, and there are some reports that we've taken information from, and you'll see the links for those reports, so you can go read the full reports as well. And obviously, if you have any questions at the end, please just put them in the chat, and we will happily take them at the end of the session. So maybe just to kick off, Gartner in 2024 did a survey of their global customer base to understand what their investment priorities were for 2025. You can see here that 75% of organizations stated that they intended increasing their investment or budgets in AI for 2025. They split this down into both machine learning predictive analytics and generative AI. So if you like, the machine learning predictive is more mature capability, whereas Gen AI and its natural language interface, which has really captured the imagination over the past couple of years, are the two areas. You can see the darker and the two charts to the right. The darker colors represent areas where adoption is already established, and obviously machine learning and predictive AI is more advanced. However, interestingly, there is a bigger number of companies who are planning to invest in 2025 in generative AI. So they have already conducted more surveys already in 2025, and what they found is, yes, organizations are continuing steady investment in AI, and some of the leaders are now achieving what they call scaling, which is really ramping up AI and driving across multiple functions. Interestingly, low maturity organizations have trouble in identifying suitable use cases, and some exhibit unrealistic expectations with respect to their AI initiatives. So we'll certainly come back to this point. When you get the slides, you'll see that the kind of URLs is at the bottom to the two reports that this information is from. So what is the difference between generative AI and predictive AI? Well, on this chart, if we just start on the right-hand side, the predictive. So predictive AI uses smaller data sets, not small data sets, but smaller by comparison to generative AI. Typically, you're using historic data, and the more historic data you have, the better. You can also take in some external data. So examples of use cases would be demand or business forecasting. So based on historic performance, historic trends, current patterns, and potentially kind of external factors like economic data, weather data, etc. What would the demand be in your particular business, in your particular sector, for the next 3 or 6 months? Obviously, the further you go out, the less accurate the predictions would be. If you then take that predictive capability and combine it with providing it with constraint information. So for example, in this, if we say for inventory, there might be a certain demand in the market, but in terms of lead times for certain products, profitability targets you may have for your organization, capacity in your warehouse, and whatever constraints you might have with delivery to certain markets, you might say the optimized inventory for our particular business at this moment is A, because of the combination of the market prediction with whatever constraints you have. So for synthesizing quite a lot of information and giving you recommendations as to what the optimal holding could be. In the other kind of proven examples is a customer segmentation modeling. So based on analysis of customer behavior, these customers fall into a same pattern as others, so you create customer segmentations or cohorts. You would then drive your sales and marketing to those different segments to meet the needs of that segment. So the next area where predictive AI is used is in the assessment of risk. So this has been kind of used for many years, say in insurance. So essentially risk pricing based on the probability of events happening to a particular customer or a particular sector. They would price based on the probability of a particular event occurring. All of our loan applications are essentially credit scored. So our ability to pay and likelihood to pay is assessed both based on our historic behavior and our income and against our peers. So examples of where AI is used to assess risk. In the manufacturing equipment world, data can be fed from machines into these models, and when equipment starts to run outside tolerance, preventative maintenance actions can be taken before equipment failure. So they're all examples of how predictive and AI can be used. If we now go to the left-hand side and just talk about generative AI and the difference. So generative AI uses much larger volumes of data, as in they use what are known as large language models. So organizations such as OpenAI, Google, Facebook, and many others have developed large language models on vast amounts of data. So essentially trained, in some cases like OpenAI, they trained their models on all of the available data on the internet. What they can then do, but users can engage with these large language models, and by using prompts or essentially instructions, using natural language instructions to these large language models, the model will generate outputs. So examples, so code generation. And some of my colleagues in our development team would be starting to use code generation capabilities for certain tasks. You wouldn't use it for the highly specialized capabilities, but for routine tasks, like connect from this system to that system, it can, you give it an instruction, it will produce the code very competently. If we then move into the marketing world, and if we just think back to what we were saying about using predictive analytics to develop different market segments, you can then feed the information on those segments to your Gen AI model and allow the generative AI model to produce content that is targeted to those segments. So marketing is an area which obviously creates a significant amount of content, and it's an area that's being significantly transformed as a result of generative AI. You can take that kind of personalization even further. So rather than just personalizing content to a particular segment, you could feed it specific profiles of whether it be customers or employees, and content can be tailored to those individuals. So it can be used for highly personalizing outbound messaging. We can use it for translating data, translating languages, and later in this morning's webinar, Craig will take us through an example where we are helping a customer populate their ERP system with product pricing information. So they would be provided product catalogs by 30 of their suppliers. They need to go through all of those catalogs and load that information into their ERP system, which is quite a kind of laborious process, because all of the manufacturer suppliers would provide their own catalogs in different formats, etc. So we are using AI to ingest all of these product catalogs and then populate our customers' ERP system in a very specific way so that they can then provide pricing to their ongoing customers. It can also be used for translation of language, say for example German to English, or a myriad of different languages. It can be used for doing complex research. So in sectors such as protein development or the material science, highly specialized industries, generative AI is having really significant reductions in their development cycles. However, in a more, I suppose, ubiquitous use case, many organizations are using complex research for supporting their strategy development. So for example, if organizations are considering entering in new markets, what they can do is ingest huge data sets on these new markets into their Gen AI models. They can then synthesize all of that information to produce insights very quickly, and then help generate various strategic scenarios. So I suppose to gameplay what entering different markets might be, and which might be of most benefit to a particular organization and their specific set of competitive advantage. So that's just a sample of, I suppose, the array of different possibilities that exist with generative AI, and that's only skimming the surface. So just to another McKinsey produced a report a little earlier this year, the state of AI. And this chart, and again at the bottom of the chart, you'll see a link to the report. This particular chart is the expected AI-driven cost reduction by line of business. And the darker the color, the higher the expected cost reduction. You'll note that it spans practically every line of business. However, areas where there is significant research or document and content creation have the highest impact. So if you look down at the bottom there, knowledge management, product and service development, and if you go up a little bit higher, risk, legal and compliance. These areas that I suppose either have to trawl through a lot of documentation and synthesize it, or in the case of risk compliance and knowledge management, or in the case of product and service development, kind of looking at new ways of doing things and researching. Those types of areas have the potential for significant savings. Now, in this report, it goes on, and the next chart is a bit of an eye test. We won't go through it, but the only point to put up here is the report, the McKinsey report, then takes and goes by sector. So you can look at it yourself, you can see which sector is most applicable to yourself, and then you can, across the top, and then on the left hand side you can see the particular, I suppose, domain within your business that has the biggest potential. So it's quite interesting. If we just say focus in on one department, and in this case we're just saying taking finance as the example, you could sort of distill it down and say that within finance, AI is being used for achieving three outcomes. One is automating manual tasks, two is improving decision making, and three is enhancing risk management. So how is it doing that? So by being able to provide real-time analytics and scenario modeling, it's essentially delivering better forward-looking insights. By automating repetitive tasks with a high degree of accuracy, you're freeing up your highly educated and highly talented team to spend their time on higher value activities. In a kind of an increasingly volatile world, we're able to, I suppose, take an increased amount of data sources, say external data sources, which would have been quite hard for finance to take, and integrate them into our forecasts to get better predictions. Obviously, we talked about automating manual processes. That has the effect of reducing costs and driving efficiency. The capabilities of anomaly detection can be used for whether it be identifying potential fraud or just lack of compliance and audit. Being able to assess for compliance in an automated way gets much higher detections than traditional manual auditing processes. And then, its ability to ingest and integrate data in a much more automated way drives finance to be able to do more rather than stitching together all the information. So, that's just to give an example of a particular function and a variety of different use cases. So, if we now say to ourselves, so if I'm interested in exploring how AI can be employed in our business, how do we go about this? So, There are 5 kind of recommended steps, and we employ this. It would be suggested by Microsoft and many others. But the steps are, and it would be recommended we look at it through this, in this sequence. We start with clarifying business strategy. We then move on to AI strategy discovery. We look at and consider our existing technology strategy. We then consider the organization, people and culture, and we finally consider AI governance. And we'll look at these one by one. So when we say business strategy, we're not saying that we redefine your strategy. What we're saying is, to employ AI wisely, we start with business strategy and ensure that we first have clarity on your organization's objectives, and then align the use cases to unlock the full scale of your AI. I suppose going back to that opening chart, and what Gartner found, and less mature organizations struggling to find the right use case and having unrealistic expectations. I think many early adopters went straight to the technology and started playing with the technology without a real clear focus on what they were trying to achieve. And therefore, by clearly outlining your organization's business goals, identifying the business units where AI can drive impact, and establishing, I suppose, a consistent way of measuring the benefits of AI in your organization, puts you on a much sounder footing for adoption of AI. Your business strategy, AI is not going to, it will change how you do business, but it's not going to change why you're in business and what your purpose is in serving its customers. So getting clarity on what that is, and looking at the levers that you have, for, whether it be for driving revenue, driving customer experience, driving customer satisfaction, in enhancing employees' engagement and experience, or driving profitability. AI will help you do those things, but your business has a certain foundation, and it's about understanding how AI can support that. So the next step is AI strategy discovery. So having gotten clarity on the, I suppose, top priorities and the major levers in your business, you would then do your due diligence by reviewing your business units, your processes, your production times, your customer experience, to identify opportunities or issues which AI can address. For each of these potential use cases, you would define business outcomes for all use cases, and then you would go through a process to evaluate and prioritize the most valuable and the most feasible AI use cases. There may be some use cases that could be highly valuable but are just too challenging for your organization to implement, and obviously you wouldn't start there. You start off with lower hanging fruit as you develop your capabilities. Importantly, ensuring that your teams are familiar with generative AI and predictive AI's capabilities, so they understand how it can support your business. And given that all AI is dependent on data, we need to do a review of your technical architecture and infrastructure with a focus on data, so we can understand the readiness of your data to support the use cases which have been identified, and whether any data cleansing or data access or data augmentation may be required. So when we then move on to technology, and you could say from at a high level, technology is possibly the easy part. We obviously need to understand what digital infrastructure and applications run your business today. And then given the primary use cases you have defined in the earlier step, what is required to enable these applications. When you understand what's required, then you need to have some criteria established for how you might go about procuring these capabilities, and whether you want to have these capabilities in your own on-prem environment or whether you want to have it in a cloud hosted way. You then can move into selecting the right partners to help you on that journey. Critically, when we come to organization and culture, I think an important realization is, I suppose, adopting and leveraging AI to its full benefit is not a one and done project. And I suppose our experience of many IT, traditional IT projects would have a very linear life cycle, whereas the adoption of AI is going to be far more iterative. Organizations are going to assess their organization for opportunities. They're then going to implement, train, and enable staff, drive them through, and then look for the next set of, and it's going to be a continuous evolution. Creating an environment where there is I suppose, a culture of agility, an acceptance of a certain amount of experimentation, and a backing by the leadership is going to be absolutely critical. So establishing leadership, ownership, and support for AI within a business, who is going to own it, developing, because it is likely over time going to span many functions, developing a clear operating model as to this is how we do this, embracing change. I suppose it's a little like Lean Sigma. It's a continuous evolution, and then of course getting subject matter expertise at the appropriate time to guide you, and then continuing to upskill and continuous learning for your people so that they are comfortable. Many people are concerned about the potential of AI to replace at least some of what they do. I think in truth, notwithstanding that it has the capability of reducing costs, it also has the capability of opening up far greater potential for people and our staff who embrace it, who will be able to become far more productive. So the final step is then about AI governance. All organizations are responsible for the outcomes of AI used within their business. And therefore, it is critical that organizations will establish responsible AI principles and policies. Obviously, working with partners who are committed to trustworthy AI can help you significantly on your journey. And it's something that everybody needs to be cognizant of, but not to be afraid of. So that is, I suppose, just to put in context what we have come to believe is the right way of approaching AI. It is to very much start with what your business objectives are, and then explore how AI can support your business desired outcomes, as opposed to starting with technology and going, how can we apply this technology? So ProStrategy have developed an AI adoption kickstart engagement to help organizations get that alignment with the executive and your core strategic priorities, to run a series of discovery workshops using design thinking techniques with your organization departments and functions to identify their pains and the opportunities for AI, to then take the outputs of those workshops and bring them and evaluate them from a feasibility and potential benefits, and then to work with you to prioritize the most valuable and most feasible into an implementation roadmap. That engagement, depending on your organization, how broad you may want to look at it and how detailed, could be anything from 3 to 6 days kind of consulting. There is also an AI literacy course that we can provide to help your staff understand, or yourselves understand, the capabilities of AI in a more detailed way. So on the course, we'll help people understand what it is, what it isn't, introduce them into personal productivity tools, make you aware of governance considerations, look at AI solutions designed to improve process, understand some of the operational risks associated, and look at some real-world use cases so that you'll be better prepared to adopt AI. So if you're interested in either of those engagements, please drop us a note. We'd be delighted to talk with you. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Craig, who's going to take us through a number of use cases. So over to you, Craig.
Hi, I'm Craig, Client Director for the Analytics team. So I'm going to go through some use cases we've been working on with our customers. This will span process AI embedded in process automation for internal efficiencies, personal productivity, and AI embedded in software. So the first use case we have here, John introduced earlier. So we have a customer that has vendors who provide the cost price lists in various formats. So these can be 500 plus page PDFs or Excels with merge cells and multiple rows for a single item, etc. And it takes time to upload and approve these prices in ERP manually. So only a subset are loaded to ERP when the cost price list is received. You can see that on the left here. This means that when a customer comes into the shop with a custom requirement, the sales agent has to call the back office to get a price. They'll look up the cost and calculate the approved price, by which point the customer's left the shop, and then they'll ring back a few days later with the price. So the custom items can take a few days to price, meaning the customer leaves the showroom before they know the price and without making the purchase. So the solution we're working on with them will be to drag and drop the new cost price lists to the cloud. We have an AI pricing agent which will automatically extract the costs and put them into a structured database. And then we have an app over the top for governance and approvals. So these can all be done ahead of time for all available items. So then when the customer comes into the shop with a custom requirement, they can get the price in the showroom and decide immediately whether to make the purchase. Next use case, we've developed some policy search agents, so that for internal HR, and for example, HR and IT policy documentation can be loaded into a large language model and queried through Teams. So this will reduce the calls to HR with an agent to answer the HR related queries and provide links to the relevant documentation. So questions like, what are the health insurance benefits? Do I qualify for the pension scheme, etc.? And we use Copilot Studio, Azure AI Foundry, surfaced through Teams to allow employees to access this information quickly. So there's high governance and security built in. So access and answers only provided where appropriate with links to the relevant documentation. And this saves on calls to the internal service departments, freeing time to focus on improvements to internal systems and processes. So the next example would be, again, document search agents. So we're working with an insurance broker that has lots of underwriter documentation, and being able to search these documents will reduce the reliance on the knowledge of the more experienced staff to assist the call center agents with quick access to up-to-date supplier information. So for example, if a call center agent is asked, I'm a self-employed electrician in Cork and I have to keep my tools in the van, what coverage can you give me? Traditionally, they'd have to then call an experienced team member, which can take time to find the correct person, and the quality will depend on who's working on the day. Whereas we're looking to load the underwriter documentation to train a large language model, which can be surfaced through an agent in Teams to provide immediate, accurate answers. So now we have a use case which is embedded in software. So this is IBM Planning Analytics built-in AI capabilities that can help increase the accuracy and speed of forecasting. So here, build up a forecast. We'd be selecting the product that we want to forecast for 2024. So we can see we have a trend of historic data here, and we want to forecast what's going to happen in 2024. And there's a button on the screen just to select univariate or multivariate analysis. So that's where you can bring in additional variables to the time series data that you already have. So here we'll be forecasting 2024 and bringing in the external factors of the unemployment rates and consumer spending, and clicking on forecast to deliver a forecast for that particular product that's been selected. And this will also provide statistical details on the predictions that it's made that can be further analyzed by data scientists, so they'll understand the details of the models that have been used, and it gives you a summary of the relative contribution of the external factors and how they correlate with the historic data and their impact on the forecast that's been generated. So we can see here the unemployment rate is much more correlated with the sales of the product that we'd selected than the consumer spending has been. So it's been used to generate the forecast with a much higher contribution. Another software embedded solution is Softera Bank Feed, which provides automated bank payments reconciliations for Business Central. So a typical process for reconciling the bank statements would be receiving the bank statements periodically, manually entering them into the ERP, and then manually taking time to reconcile those transactions back to your sales invoices. With Softera, it's a fully automated process. So It connects back into your bank to upload all of the bank transactions, and then automatically reconciles to your invoices in Business Central. So that's seamless automation and ingestion of all your bank account transactions into Business Central, automatic reconciliation to invoices with up to 98% reduction on time spent reconciling accounts. So if you're ready to take the next step, you can book a call to discuss further, as John said, and I'll bring John and Miriam in now to answer any questions.
Hi, everyone. If you have any questions now, you can put them into the Q&A box that's up on the top ribbon. So I'll just give you a few minutes there to throw any questions in if you have some. While we're waiting, I'll ask you guys a question. So what AI models do you use, and are they agnostic? Can I use several models?
Do you want to take that one, Craig?
Yep. So a lot of the tools we can kind of swap in and out the different models that are available. So obviously these are being developed and constantly improving over time. So we can kind of, in the process of development, we can test which of the models are more effective and swap them in and out as appropriate to get the best results for you.
Great, thanks, Craig. Let's see. What are the costs associated with the AI solutions, and how long do they take to implement?
Take this one, John?
Yeah. Okay. I suppose if we take the examples that are there, so for example, the planning analytic solution is an embedded piece of software, so it's available for users of the planning analytic solution. It's and then their AI assistant would just be a per user per month fee for that additional capability. So it's like about $30 per user per month for layering on their AI solution on top of it. So that would be the only cost for that. For the, say, agents that Craig talked about earlier, they're essentially built using Microsoft Copilot. So again, there would be a monthly license cost for users, and then there would be, depending on the complexity of the agent that you want to build, it could be anything from, a simple agent could be built in 5 days. More complex ones could be larger. So say the first use case that Craig talked about, the ingestion of all the pricing information on the population and approval within an ERP system, is probably in the order of 40 or 50 days of work to build and implement, test and have that solution production ready. And then there would be some that's been built using Azure capabilities. There would be some monthly costs, but they would be nominal costs. Did I miss something there, Craig?
No, that sounds right.
Okay, before we wrap it up, just one quick question about data. Do we need, I suppose when we're starting a project like that, do we need to have clean up or centralize our data before using AI?
So that would depend on the use case specifically, but kind of part of the process of evaluating the feasibility would be to understand what data is required for the particular application, and how easy it would be to source, and what level of additional information might be required as well. So that would kind of form part of the workshopping to understand. But like the data is key, essentially. So when you get to the implementation phase, it's very important to understand that the data is going to be correct coming in.
Great, thanks, Craig. We'll wrap it up with this question. Who should attend the business strategy workshops?
So typically the first workshop we would host with an organization's kind of leadership team to get clarity on what the business objectives are, and where, I suppose, to help agree with the leadership team the biggest opportunities for AI within a business. So then the next step would be to hold some discovery sessions with the specific identified business units. So would be with some of the key users or within each of those functions, to explore how operations currently work today, and to kind of whiteboard and imagine what the world could look like with AI, and what the benefits could be. So leadership team initially, then with each of the selected business units, you would hold a workshop for a few hours to explore the specifics in that, and then thereafter it would be a case of running some kind of evaluation of the various business cases and playing that back to the leadership team to say, well, here's the potential, what would you like to focus on, and then building a roadmap from there.
Thanks, John. We'll leave it there. So thanks to John and Craig, our speakers. Thanks to everybody for joining us today. If there's anything, John or Craig, you want to say before we go?
No, thanks, Marion.
No, just if anybody is interested in exploring it further, please drop us an email.
Thanks everyone for joining. Have a lovely day. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.